This is your boy, Lord Thadeus Kray. What's this one going to be about? It's going to be a review about something I haven't done in a while. And I'm not sure if I've ever done this kind of review before. It's going to be about a couple of books that I've read. And to be honest with you, these books, I believe, are, this is my personal opinion, I think they should be required reading in schools. A couple of these books were definitely recommended by teachers, and that was one of the reasons I read them. Here we go. One, of course, was 1984 by George Orwell. That man had connections to so many things, it's ridiculous. Now, you have to understand, he made the book 1984, or wrote it, I want to say back in 1939. Or I believe right around that time. So pretty much you're talking about between World War I and World War II, before World War II really got started. So, and of course, if you don't know what that's about, I'll tell you. I'm not going to spoil it too much. It's been so long since I haven't read the entire book, but it's been so long since I've read any parts of it that, excuse me, I'm just going to go by what I remember. What I do know, it was about, quite literally, the government had overreached in every which way it could. And basically, Big Brother, the state, watched over everything. I mean, they even had police that would get you if you thought the wrong way. So, to say this one guy and a woman that he falls for, they're both swept up in this big mess. And believe me, they don't play around with the details in this book. If I were you, I would definitely get my hands on it, make no mistake. It might actually prove enlightening for what we're dealing with now, especially with all this talk of war, as well as rumors of war, just like it says in the book of Revelation. Now, as I said, Orwell was a man that definitely had his hands in many things, and he was a man in the know. If I were you, excuse me, just about any book by him would definitely be worth checking out. Now, there's going to be another one that I would recommend, possibly even more, and it might surprise you. The writer was actually fairly well known. She's actually quite famous in many ways. She's written a bunch of books, all the way from The Fountainhead, to which I thought was an okay book. But to me, it was kind of, it's not quite really what I was into at the time. But I forced myself to read it anyway, and it wasn't too bad. The writer is Ayn Rand. She also wrote one book which I loved called Atlas Shrugged. And of course, that entire system most likely wouldn't be feasible, but I understood what she was trying to do. However, the book which really had the most impact with me was a novella. It was a book that probably wasn't much more than 100 pages, if that. It was called Anthem. It was quite literally what could happen if we stop understanding the self. And what I mean by that is simple. Quite literally, it was a dystopian nightmare where people could no longer quite literally have any kind of self-identity. As a matter of fact, you were put to death for it. The term I, me, myself, or anything that would pretty much, how can I say this the best way, would dictate or be led to an individual was forbidden. And because of this, each person had to answer to we, thee, they, those kind of pronouns. Scary, huh? People ain't paying attention. I'm just leaving that out there. You know, a lot of this woke garbage that's come out, a lot of this crap that we see you see it all over the internet. As well as, I'm pretty sure some of you guys have actually come across people who actually are they've gone to this extreme. And this is not a good thing. I mean, I understand, people have their own different, orientations and beliefs, and I respect that. But the thing is, when you forget the self, that's when you're screwed. And quite literally, in this book, this man struggles. He's different than the others. He dares to actually love a woman who he chooses. He actually dares to try to think for himself. And the consequences that are reaped upon him are, believe me, he gets some good reward, but I'll tell you right now, he has to go through a lot of suffering. I don't want to put much spoilers on that book, but I do believe it would be very good for individuals who listen to me to read. I would recommend it for anyone. Make no mistake. I mean, don't get me wrong, books like The Hunger Games and things like that, of course, are important because they make you think. But this one is right up there with that, or if not more important. And the fact is, the book is not a long read. It is fairly quick, and it's easy to understand. So my point is, even a trained baboon like me can understand it. You can understand it. Leave it at that. Now, there is one book I have not read, but I have heard good things about it, and I've read premises about it. And it could actually happen if you go the other way. If you let extremism, when it comes to a religious type of affair, take over. And that is The Handmaid's Tale. You have to think on these things, man. All these books are warnings. Unfortunately, I've noticed that some people seem to take them as an instruction manual, but that's beside the point. So, I just wanted to kind of put that out there. I'm not sure who wrote The Handmaid's Tale, but they definitely saw some things that's going on which ain't good. I'm just going to leave it at that. However, when it comes to Ayn Rand, I do know a fair bit about her. She was the one that wrote Anthem, The Fountainhead, and of course Atlas Shrugged. The woman came from Russia, if I remember right. She saw communism up close and personal. She saw the things that it, the chaos that it had quite literally brought where she come from. It was not, believe me, the woman was warped anyway. A lot of her views I don't agree with, but I'll tell you right now, she had foresight and insight to see things. I wouldn't be surprised if she had the sight, to be honest. But she saw things that, while her own personal life was a mess, despite that, this woman saw things just like Mr. Orwell and the writer of The Handmaid's Tale. She saw things that are happening now. And you have to understand, this woman was alive in a time that, if I remember right, well before the time I was born, leave it at that. I'm just saying, it's creepy and frightening just how many of these authors, these writers, saw ahead of time with the crap that's going on now. They saw history back then repeat itself now. I'm just going to leave it at this. I believe these books are very important. And like I said, I would advise you definitely to read 1984. Hands down, if you haven't, you need to. And Anthem, again, like I said, that book is short, but it gets the point. And believe me, I think we all could definitely benefit from that one. We're in dangerous times, folks, and while normally I try to do more lighthearted things when it comes to my reviews, I figured this one was important. I'm just going to leave that out there. Also, the cryptid in which I plan on doing a video on next is going to be revealed right now. I plan on doing one that's pretty common, but at the same time, I'm still going to put it out there because I haven't done one really strictly on this creature, and that's Loch Ness. I want to do one on that cryptid in general. I might have done a video on it before, but I don't think I have. And if not, it's going to be redone. And quite literally, I'm going to put what scientific knowledge I have into the research which I'm going to put on this thing. And of course, I want you guys to think for yourself. I want you guys to really kind of see where I'm coming from when it comes to this one cryptid. It's fascinating to me. And it's one that's fascinated me probably earlier than Bigfoot. Just leave it at that. So, you guys know what I do. I'm the producer for Dark Waters Entertainment. If you have had a sighting of cryptid, paranormal or otherwise, hit me up. I would definitely love to have the chance to make sure your story is heard. It is wesvic at IamDarkWaters.com. You guys be blessed and you be safe.